All right, guys. So I just wanted to discuss a detail that you can use to just increase your digging mechanics for heel hooks and just your finishes for leg locks in general, whether it be heel hook or an ankle lock. And it's just going to be like an accenting of the muscles that are going to be controlling the toes. Okay. So in moves like the ankle lock and the heel hook, it's very, very important that we are able to really put some nice wedging on the toes. Why is this important? Okay. You look at your partner's foot, right? The foot is a lever within itself. The short end of the lever is the heel, and the long end is the toes. So it doesn't matter if it's a heel hook or a toe hold. I always want to think, how am I controlling the toes? So again, let's start with an ankle lock. We'll just go straight ashy here. So you just come down. So straight for an ankle lock. Again, if my partner's foot is flexed, like he's putting on the boot, just put the boot on. In this case, I can crank on this as much as I want. If I can't break the posture of his foot, I'm not going to be able to do the ankle lock. Okay. What I need to do is think about, how am I actually pushing his toes down and back? Okay. So I can break the posture of the foot by engaging like a frame and making space, and then also mobilizing my shoulder. So I can roll my shoulder back, and I'm thinking about my tricep, my rear delt, my lat muscle, all working together to roll back and to push his toes back. So when he puts the boot on here, I run into that resistance. Usually I use like a shotgun grip. Sometimes I'll use a butterfly hook, or I'll use like a post ashy of some sort. Okay, so here when he kicks that boot on, I roll my shoulder back, and I focus on breaking the posture of the foot. So now I've done that. Ethan tries to put the boot back on. I've already created that wedge. Okay, but it's usually not set yet. Now I need to hollow my body and do a second transition where I push his foot, and now I feel like I've got a great position. Okay, so I just pushed his foot further away from me. I haven't gone full Aoki and brought the heel all the way through, but we're here, and the sole of his foot is more or less sort of resting on my ribs. So now, again, if my shoulder is forward, he can put the boot on, right? It affects my control. But if I roll my shoulder back, now I can break the posture of his foot, and there's my secondary adjustment. Now that's all that's left to do. However you like to finish the ankle lock is engage your feet. So I can pinch, lock my feet over the hip. I've been playing with this sort of Jacob Couch version here, let's turn, where he does like a stomp, a post ashy, and then he back heels, as opposed to playing a butterfly ashy. I think nowadays it's very popular to use a butterfly ashy. But what this will allow my partner to do is move his hips and start to create different angles. Okay. I've actually really started to enjoy this one. And a big detail for this one is the pinch knee to knee. Okay, that's really going to immobilize the shin. And now there's not going to be any play from his knee to his hip. So what does that mean? All the pressure that goes into the ankle is going to get, it's not going to go further than the knee. It's going to go right into the ankle. Okay, so I'm here. I get my break my partner's foot, and then I go in and I get my secondary adjustment. So from here, now what I'm going to do when I finish is I'm going to be focusing on the small muscles that we talked about to really push those toes down. Okay, so here I'm going to do it without engaging those muscles. So I'm here like this. So I'm not, my shoulders are pretty dead. I compress, okay, and I'm starting to really put the heat on, but I'm not using that muscle group. And now I got to start using my hips, okay, starting to suck a little bit probably, and he's tapping. Okay, so I had to use a little bit more power there. But now I'm actually going to consciously focus on pushing his toes down with those small muscles. So I'm here like this, and now I roll my shoulder back. He's already tapping. All right, why is this happening? Because, again, I'm accessing the end of the lever, and I'm really focusing on bending it down. And a lot of the time, the foot is also getting compressed sideways as well. All right, so for an ankle lock, that's why that's super important to engage these muscle groups and kind of mobilize your shoulder. Okay, now let's look at a heel hook. So heel hook's a very similar thing. Doesn't really matter what kind of heel hook it is. You know, previously in the ankle lock, we want the foot to be facing down like this. But for a heel hook, what I need is for his toes to actually be pointing up. When the toes are pointing up, can you turn your knee that way? It's getting locked out, okay? So he can't turn his knee that way, and then I'm going to be using my hips to push the knee through while the toes are going this way. If I allow his foot to turn into plantar flexion, now his leg can start to rotate. It's harder for me to stop that. So the way that we do this when we dig a heel hook is we catch the dig, and then we close our elbow to our body. And what this does is it really immobilizes his toes and it locks his foot in that 90-degree action. So here, I don't even have a dig on the heel. There's no wedge under the heel. Ethan, just slip your heel. Like it's pretty caught, okay? And then I add other grips and it starts to get really, really tight. So from this, if I lock up and I'm here like this and I have a heel hook, but my elbow's slightly open and I'm not engaging those muscles, not only does he heel slip, you're going to notice that your forearm's going to get real bruised and real sore because your forearm, if you do it that way, your forearm is actually the main wedging mechanism, which is no good. Okay. When I first started doing heel hooks, I didn't know about this detail and I was trying to pull up hard with my forearm. My elbow would be open, my partner would heel slip, and I'd have bruises all over my forearm. Okay. But if I come in and I just pinch here and then I really access those muscles that we talked about and I roll them back, now when he tries to heel slip, super difficult. I get a strong bite. There's very little pressure on my forearm actually because it's all getting immobilized through his toes. So when we're here, let's just look this way. Okay, you can see his toes here, right? This way. You can see his toes. If I dig and my elbow's open and there's a sizable gap inside here, that's where you're going to get slippage. I close my elbow and then I try and roll back. So what's happening is my muscles on my arm and my body are pushing down. So I'm generating a lot more rotation. And what this is going to mean is it creates more tension and I have a break that requires less energy. Okay. So I'm here, I get my dig. I make sure when I'm finishing, I'm consciously putting pressure down and mobilizing my shoulder. Okay. So Ethan, what feels tighter? Digging like this or like that? Right? So I'm just by really contracting and mobilizing your shoulder and thinking about how you're manipulating your partner's toes throughout heel hooks, toe holds, you're going to get a lot more out of your braking mechanics. Okay. Last thing I guess I'll show is heel hook from outside ashy, just real quick, because I think I've made my point. But let's just come this way. So it's kind of the same thing when we're here. When we get our dig from outside ashy, when I get here, I really want to think about not just pulling up on the heel. Again, this is a big mistake. However you like to orient your legs from outside ashy, usually I prefer this full triangle, but you can do this if you want, okay? When I do this, a lot of people will get their heel hook and they'll just focus on pulling the heel up. Okay, we get so fixated on pulling the heel up, but it's kind of like a toe hold. I really want to think about putting tension on the leg first by pushing the toes in. And now all that pressure is already going in, then I pull the heel open. So it's always a shearing force. And the way that I do it is with these muscles that I talked about. So I go in, I get my dig on my partner. Okay, I get my leg positioning. So when I'm here, I'm focusing on using my body to push, and I'm pinching my elbow to my body so that I'm activating those muscles, and I'm pushing the toes into him, pushing in, and I'm already getting a tap without even using my hips. And that's just really helped me get quick finishes and strong braking mechanics, especially in the training room. I don't really think you should be applying heel hooks and using a ton of hip pressure because A, it's more dangerous, and B, also you will have shittier mechanics in general. You'll train yourself to use more energy than you need to. So when you're doing heel hooks, ankle locks, just consider how you're using your shoulder to access the toes. Doesn't matter, ankle locks, heel hooks, inside, outside heel hooks. Give it a try and let me know what you guys think in the comments.